Hello and welcome to Sex in the News. We are the Siegel Brothers. Tonight we'll be talking about rise in sextortion scams, a historic ruling out of Angola in Africa, a bit on devious sperm poisoning their rivals, and the sad reality of sex trafficking around big events like the Super Bowl.
So our first story is
Yes,
it's a good one.
Sextortion,
Yeah.
particularly over the past year during quarantines and lockdowns and stay-at-home orders. This is not a new thing. It's been around for, one of the first things on the internet was the emails from African princes.
Right, the Nigerian
You're the last person we found. Send us $5,000 and we'll wire $5 million right back to you.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
People, especially old people who no longer have a bullshit detector, fall for things like that.
Right.
This nowadays, 21st century, we have much more sophisticated scams.
Yes,
So
exactly.
why don't you talk about what sextortion means?
Yeah, the sextortion, as you know, I'm sure some people are aware, is this
Some
scam.
may have received such
right?
emails.
Exactly, where people are getting these emails saying, hey, we have pictures of you, we have hacked your computer, and if you don't send us $2,000 or $5,000 via Bitcoin. That's the way they keep themselves anonymous, through this sort of cryptocurrency. So you have to send us this money, or we're going to release your browser history, we're going to release your porn. And something that a lot of older adults are really kind of freaked out about when they get that is there's a version where they're saying, we have hacked into your computer and we've been using your camera taking pictures of you masturbating to porn. Right? And of course, people don't know what to do, especially older people. They see that and they think, oh, they're in my computer,
sure.
and they're sending this money. And it really is a pervasive scam. But I also want to point something out. I was looking at what the FBI has been saying, and they've been releasing reports on this for a very long time. But they have a couple of important tips for people to follow. And this is, some of these are just basic internet safety tips. Right? Don't ever open up an attachment on a text or on an email, especially if you don't know who it is. And if you're not quite sure, why don't you contact the person who you think it's from and make sure that they did send you that.
Including Facebook messages and all social media. Instant messages.
But a lot of these, these texts that people get, you won money, click on here. Don't ever click on any link or attachment from somebody you don't know.
If it sounds too good to be true, it most certainly is.
Exactly. Keep on top of your credit report. Make sure your bank statements and your credit reports are not showing any kind of unusual activity or something that you didn't do.
Just general hacking tips, right?
Exactly.
Change
These
your
are really
passwords
basic things.
often.
Change them often.
Don't
make
use
them
obvious.
strong.
Don't use obvious passwords like your birthday.
Right, and don't use the same one for all of your stuff. That's another big trick, and I'm often guilty of that one myself. Make sure that if you're on Facebook and you're on Twitter, make sure that your security settings are the highest they can possibly be. And again, even if it's just a web address and you get a link and it looks like it's a web address and you do want to check it out, a tip a lot of people don't realize is don't copy and paste. Put in the website manually. It makes a big difference. If you type it in manually, you're generally going to be safe. But if you copy the link, even if it's letter for letter the same, if you copy a link and put it in your browser, you're giving them access. Right? So again, these are basic internet safety tips, but don't freak out, and above all, do not pay.
Yeah.
That's probably first and foremost. Do not ever pay, because the FBI is also saying that as much as they may threaten, they're really not in your computer.
Yeah, and as paranoid a thought as it is. I mean, there was, you remember in Philly, outside in suburban Philadelphia, there was a private school that made such a big to-do about, look how generous we are. We're giving all the students a free laptop. And then turns out that they were
They were spying.
Spying on them,
Yeah.
getting high and having sex and breaking all the rules, and
Mm-hmm.
the parents were all in an uproar. But even if it's a little paranoid, I saw Mark Zuckerberg do it. So put a piece of tape over your camera.
Yeah, exactly. and really, and I think you just made
Just
an
in
important point.
case.
You made an important point, and I just want to put it out there very clearly, because this only works because people are so ashamed about their masturbation and
Right.
the fact that they watch porn.
Oh, sure.
So
that's a
if you
great,
do it, own it.
As scams go, it's a good one.
It is. It is.
This is, I think, really historic.
Yes.
That the African nation of Angola decriminalized same-sex sexual relationships.
Yep.
Why is it so historic? Well, because continental Africa has not been known for its tolerance.
Uh-huh.
Its neighbor, Uganda,
Yeah.
we've seen videos of some of the most horrendous propaganda that's spread. That gay people have sex and eat each other's feces,
Right.
and can't poop because their bowels come out.
The president of Uganda called homosexuals terrorists.
Yeah. But this new law was intended to overturn a colonial era, quote, vice against nature. We laughed earlier, like we've
Yeah.
been so kind to nature lately.
Right.
Vice against nature provision that was seen as a ban on homosexual relations. So this was from Angola's parliament, not yet signed. Oh, it was.
It was
signed
just
into law
signed?
just a year ago.
But
No,
just
this past November.
just past November, but just also put into practice.
And included in the law is
Yeah.
a prohibition against discrimination based on a person's sexual orientation.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big jump into the 21st century.
It really is. Not to
There
mention
are European countries that are not.
exactly
caught up to
exactly,
this, yeah.
and not to mention that it is also a major move for their own sovereignty.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of these African countries are still under colonial rule, so
You
now
mean
they
even
can stand
since
alone.
their independence?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Wonderful. This is just a hoot. This is the kind of article that we
Live for.
Sex geeks, sex geeks, and research nerds live for. Yes, the title is true. Devious Sperm poison their rivals, forcing them to swim in circles until they die.
Yeah.
And this fascinating research about sperm being ruthless competitors. Nice sperm finished last, they say.
Yeah.
This research was done with what kind of sperm are we looking at?
It's
was
mostly in mice. Yeah.
right? Mouse sperm. But they were looking at a particular DNA sequence known as the T haplotype, for those of you following along at home. And sperm that have this have the ability, it was observed, to disarm,
Right.
disable competitor sperm, even their own brethren, and literally make them swim in circles while they do a mad dash for the egg.
Exactly.
Now, I remember from you, like 25 years ago, this thing about this research that showed that not all sperm
Right.
are egg seekers, and
Right.
some of them are like blockers
Exactly.
and defenders. Some of them take the loss by rushing up front.
That's right.
You know?
They form a flying wedge almost. It's almost like a kickoff return in a football game.
Yeah. Even, this is fascinating, I heard it said, I think this must have been Dr. Granzig, or you also, but the shape of the gland's penis, the ridge on the penis,
Yeah.
kind of has a design that during thrusting,
Yes.
it would kind of pull out any other guy's
Right.
sperm that happens to have been in there from a previous one, so his sperm will have dominance
Right.
toward the cervix.
Exactly, and not that. I think
like
I
a
got
plunger.
that. I got that from a publication that was done between David Lay and Dan Savage. And it was this idea of sperm competition. And their article was really about cuckolding and how that actually can be very effective because that sense of jealousy causes the guy to thrust harder and deeper, and then the corona, that ridge around the bottom part of the head of the penis, actually, because a lot of people, why is it shaped that way? Well, because it can get
That's
in
why.
there and pull that other guy's sperm out of there.
That's
So this
pretty-
whole idea of sperm competition, I think this adds to all of that stuff. It's
It's
real. We're
just
really starting to
amazing.
see that not only do sperm do more than what we think they do, but they kind of have little personalities.
I just always thought and probably taught for years that they're nothing, they're not even cells. They're not human cells, right? They have 23 chromosomes. Human cells have 46. And that they're nothing more than DNA torpedoes.
Right.
So like those tails, like
That's right.
single-celled organisms do.
Exactly.
And all of this
Right.
fuel pack to
And
get
those
them
tails
on the
don't work
journey.
the way we've always thought they did either.
But it's almost like they have a brain, or at least
Well-
the sense of.
At some point, we can talk about how there are also different cannabinoid receptors on different parts of the sperm.
Wow.
Right? But that's for another time.
Yeah, we should make a mental note. We need to talk about that.
Yes,
The
indeed.
last piece is a brief one. Again, unfortunately,
But important.
it's not something we can call breaking news or even new news, but we just had a Super Bowl, so of course attention is put on the fact that these events, especially in places like Tampa Bay, are magnets for sex traffickers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And Florida in general, what are we ranked number 3
Third in the nation
in terms of sex
When it
trafficking?
comes to women and children being sold
Right.
for sex.
And again, I think it's an
And Tampa
important
Bay,
distinction.
right? Doesn't Tampa
Yes.
have like the
One of the highest.
highest number of porn shops or there's
Per
something-
capita. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and what I like about this report is also does make a distinction. Right? When they were finding during the Super Bowl, I mean, they had all these stings that were set up
Yeah.
by these organizations, including Tampa Police Department, that were setting up these stings, and they were finding all this kind of stuff, and they were making a distinction between the women that they were picking up for prostitution versus trafficking. And the fact that they did make that distinction,
Right.
too many people don't make that distinction. It's sort of an all-encompassing term now when they
Right.
talk about trafficking.
so they talked about how they rescued a 20-year-old, and don't find too many solo entrepreneur sex workers
Yeah.
who are 20. Quite frankly, so the chances are very high. And in this case, the 20-year-old did report that she was trafficked.
She was being trafficked, exactly.
And even there was like probably 21st century record low number of attendees, right? They only allowed 25,000 people.
Right, there
in
were
the
more
stadium.
cardboard
That's right.
cutouts.
30,000 cutouts and 25,000 people. So the cutouts weren't looking for
Right.
some illegal action while they're in town for
Right.
the Super Bowl. So even in a relatively small pool of spectators,
Right.
tourists, the Super Bowl brings in tourists, and that in turn is going to bring in traffickers and
Exactly.
bring in victims.
Right. And even though this is something that is ongoing, this is all year round that is happening, these kinds of events bring these really significant spikes.
Right. So another theme we always seem to be talking about is being ethical,
Yes.
and I would extend that even to the hiring of a sex worker.
Yeah. Yeah.
People should know. You have to have an intuitive sense of whether the person is freely
Great.
consenting.
I can see we're gonna get emails now about talking about there's an ethical way to use prostitutes.
Yes.
Well, yeah, there really
sure
is.
as hell is. No. I don't want to encourage illegal activity. There's an ethical way to use escorts.
Ah,
Right?
okay.
Ask the politicians who are using the escorts
Yeah.
why escorting is legal, because escorts are paid for their time, and what they choose to do during that time is private.
Right.
Only prostitutes who are paid for sex are illegal.
Right. As usual, we like to end this with a piece that we call Poetic Justice, where we like to honor the highest level of sexual hypocrites.
And
that are out there.
it's getting bad that every week we have to debate out of a growing list who is going to be our choice for the week. It's become a real competition.
Yeah, it really has.
There's no shortage of nominees for our weekly Poetic Justice. So
Especially in the field of law enforcement.
who gets our honorable raspberry this week?
Yes, our honorable raspberry this week goes to a northern Wisconsin prosecutor. The assistant district attorney for Burnett County, Wisconsin, Daniel Steffen, who was just arrested on 3 felony counts of basically sexual abuse. apparently what he was doing, he's the prosecutor. And
A
there was
mere
this
50
one
years
case,
old.
right? There was this one case where this woman did report it, and it turned out there were several others, apparently. But this prosecutor apparently was telling all these women that if they give in to sex, and this particular woman met him in his office during breaks, met him at his house.
At a pre-trial conference.
Pre-trial conference. And basically it was, if you have sex with me, I will help reduce your sentence. I will commute your sentence. I will give you a break.
And he, of course, kept to his word and reduced these women's sentences?
Mm-hmm.
No, of course not. He did nothing of the kind.
Right. Right. He was a dick who just turned out to be a prick. Right? Who, again,
Wow.
talk about abusing his power. So for that, Daniel Steffen of Burnett County, Wisconsin, you are this week's Poetic Justice, and we salute you.
Thank you for watching Sex in the News. We'll see you next time. We are the Siegel Brothers.
Stay well.